welcome everyone, and we have a good representation from Australia, Asia, Africa, Europe, and also South America. So good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to all of you. Thank you for being here. It is such a pleasure for me to be meeting you in this session. This is a gathering of NeuroSemantics community from all over the world. And I've set up the room such that when you click in, you can just come in without the waiting room. This is because our meeting is dynamic. We'll be moving from breakout room to another. So by doing that, it allows people to just join in at any point in time that we are at. So for those of you who have not met me, I am Marzuki. I'm a NeuroSemantics trainer and meta coach, and I represent Malaysia in the ISNS leadership team. This is our ISNS community meeting. The purpose of these meetings is to have a stronger connection between our international institutes and members. It is also to increase our collaboration and to have fun. This meeting is organized every other month, alternating with the NeuroSemantics wisdom session. There are some of you who are here for the first time, and there are others who have joined these sessions before. Whether you are a first timer or a regular, I bid you welcome, and I encourage you to interact and connect with others in the community in this meeting. So are you ready to participate in the group discussions that will be coming in a very short while, right? For me, I see this community meeting as a sort of a homecoming. This is not a seminar or a talk. It is a get-together of the NeuroSemantics community. Just as we get together with families and friends, especially coming into the Christmas season, to celebrate and cherish one another, we are getting together here to give support and care as we emerge from the pandemic, offering comfort to one another. With respect to the session, I was about to say this evening, however, for you, this morning or this afternoon, however, the agenda for today's meeting, this meeting is scheduled to be between 60 to 90 minutes at the maximum. In a short while, I'll be introducing the topic for the meeting. It is meta therapy. Then we'll be breaking out into rooms of 5 to 6 people in a room, whereby we'll be having our discussions. There will be 2 sessions. The first, we'll have a few questions to discuss in the first activity, and then we'll come back into the main room, and then for you to share what was it that stood out for you in that discussion, and then we'll have another couple of questions that we'll be discussing. So that's what we'll be doing today. And before we end the session today, I'll be making some announcements on NeuroSemantics trainings. So before we continue, let me just share screen over here. Here we go. So before we continue with this session, I wish to honor your attendance today by greeting each and every one of you through the National Institutes. And this time we are going to do it slightly differently. I'd like to invite each and every one of you to unmute your mics so that we can honor everyone by loudly greeting one another in your national language as I introduce the institute. So you can greet just using welcome or selamat datang or ni hao, whatever it is that you say to greet people in your national language. Go ahead. So I'm going to introduce the institute. So are you ready for that? So let's begin with the Institute of Neuro-Semantics, Africa. So selamat datang. Africa. And next one is the Institute of Neuro-Semantics Australia. Welcome.
Woohoo, Australia.
Yeah, and make a lot of noise. There may be a few of us, but I hope that we can bring the house
Australia.
down. Yeah, I like that. Institute of Neuro-Semantics Brazil. Let's welcome Brazil. Welcome. Yes. Next is the Institute of Neuro-Semantics Egypt, Middle East, and North Africa. Ahlan, ahlan, welcome to this gathering. And next, the Institute of Neuro-Semantics Europe and Scandinavia.
Hey.
Welcome. It's cold there right now.
Very cold.
Yes. And next is Institute of Neuro-Semantics Hong Kong and China. Welcome.
Hey,
Ni hao.
ni hao.
Ni hao. Next is Institute of Neuro-Semantics Indonesia. Selamat datang Indonesia.
Selamat.
Hello. And next is the Institute of Neuro-Semantics Latin America. Welcome.
Hola.
¿Cómo están? Aquí somos varios. Por fin.
And next is the Institute of Neuro-Semantics Malaysia, Philippines, and Singapore. Selamat datang. Yes. Welcome. And last but not least, the Institute of Neuro-Semantics, the US of A. Welcome. So thank you very much for the welcoming one another. Hope that we can continue having this energy up as we move to the next part. So allow me to introduce the theme for today's meeting. The theme is meta therapy. In November, Michael presented this topic, which is based on his newest book, Meta Therapy, and these were the main topics that he introduced in the discussion last month. What do we mean by meta therapy? What is meta therapy? The degrees of hurt, and for me, when I attended the session, it was a big eye opener to understand about especially the degrees of hurt and the different kinds of intervention. Then the design of therapy, the problems for therapy, and what is it that you can do. So those are the topics that we discussed in the session. And for those of you who were not able to attend that, what I'm doing right now is I'm going into the chat, the meeting chat, and I've put in the link to the video recording of that. So if you have, if you did not have the opportunity to attend that, then you can copy that link and save it somewhere so that you can view that presentation. So coming back to our session for this evening, what I would like to just summarize are the key differences between coaching and therapy. We as meta coaches, we are more into we are used to the domain of coaching, whereby what's happening is that we are dealing with people in terms of change. We are talking about generative change. They are generating new behaviors, new ways of thinking. And the objective is to actualize or realize, manifest their hopes, their dreams, and goals. Now, the difference with therapy is that our clients need to deal with hurts and traumas. So in that particular situation, what we are talking about is we are helping them in terms of remedial change. So they are operating in a place of hurt, and we are bringing them to the place of more, I would say, comfort and safety. Okay, so those are, I would say, the key differences between coaching and therapy. So let us move on to the first activity. In this first activity, what I will do is that I will open up the breakout rooms. There will be between 4 to 5 people in each room, and you'll be in the breakout room for 20 minutes to give each person enough time to voice their opinion about what it is that we are going to be discussing. So for the first activity, what we'll be discussing is, the first one is, coaching is about generative change, hopes, dreams, and goals. Therapy is about remedial change, hurts, and traumas. So the question that you'll be discussing, the first question is, how will this be helpful to you in your practice? Contrasting coaching with therapy, that coaching is about generative change and therapy is about remedial change. So how will this be helpful? How will this knowledge be helpful to you in your practice? Now, the second topic, sorry, the second point that you'll be discussing, question, this relates to the 9 coachable factors. So if you were to refer back to your ACMC manual, I think it's on page 24 or somewhere there, the early pages, that these are the coachable factors. There are 9 coachable factors: openness, feedback openness, ego strength, committed to growth, relationship readiness, vulnerable, change embracer, dreams and goals, and patience. So these are the 9 coachable factors. So with respect to these coachable factors, the question that you'll be discussing in the breakout room will be, how will you use those when you invite someone to coaching? Okay, so I'm deliberately pausing here in case you want to take a screenshot of this or you want to write it down. So the first question that you'll be discussing in the breakout room is, coaching is about generative change, hopes, dreams, and goals. Therapy is about remedial change, hurts, and traumas. So how will this be helpful to you in your practice? And the second question you'll be discussing is, there are 9 coachable factors. How will you use those when you invite someone to coaching? Okay, so I'm going to open up the breakout room. Before I open up the breakout room, any questions for clarification if you have? Otherwise, I'll be putting you automatically. So I don't know who's going to be in the breakout room, 4 or 5 people in each room. What we will be doing is that as you discuss about this, take note of what you are discussing, so that when you come back from the breakout room, I'd like to invite 1 or 2 or 3 of you to share what is it that you talked about in the breakout room. Okay, so let me just create the breakout rooms, and I'll see you in 20 minutes. So you'll be there, yeah, 4 to 5 participants per room, and I'll see you in 20 minutes time. So enjoy yourself. Oh, by the way, the part about connecting with one another, get into the breakout rooms, introduce yourself to one another first, and then get on with the discussion, because some of you, I suspect, are running the meta program of task instead of people. So you go in, okay, start doing that. So just a reminder. Okay, so I'll see you in 20 minutes time in this main room. So enjoy yourself. Go ahead. Yes, Sandra. So anyone would like to first answer that question? What is the distinction that you can make? Because if you remember in, I think in Coaching Conversations book, whereby Michael gave the distinction between the professions. You have the profession of consultant, coach, therapist, and mentor. Mauricio, I notice you're putting up your hand. Go
Yes,
ahead.
we did open our conversation, making that particularly that distinction between coaching and therapy. And we asked the group to see what were the distinctions between coaching and therapy, if they found that their this case, the client was able to be referred to a therapist, how they would know how to do that between coaching and therapy per se as well. So the group basically gave their opinion. Sometimes, for the most part, they didn't have to refer to the client to a therapist. And as we know, most of them are in a healthy mind and they need a little push and the ego strength that they may have to be able to work with them and part of it. And then, of course, we went through the list of the coachability and the rapport and the skill that they need to do and that listening part of it. That was basically the discussion that we had. So those were the key points that we had to work with. Okay.
Thank you, Mauricio. So those 9 coachable factors will come in when we want to create that distinction whether my client needs a coach or a therapist. And in the book Coaching Conversations, Michael explicitly stated that as a coach, you need to learn how to dance with different hats. Sometimes you need to put on the trainer hat, sometimes you need to put on the consultant hat, and sometimes you need to put on the mentor hat. However, he specifically stated that when does a coach step into the therapist role? Never. That's what he said, never. So if you find that your client needs a therapist, find someone else to do the therapy, because the coach-client relationship is far different from the therapist-client relationship. A therapist-client relationship is more of a reparenting relationship as opposed to a coaching relationship. So that's why in the second activity, we will be discussing a little bit more about that distinction. I hope that.
So if I got, so Mizuki, we understood very clearly what therapy was, and that it was dealing with things that were more neuroses and psychosis and things like that. What we were trying to make the distinguishing thing was between therapy, which is of that clinical nature, and meta therapy.
Yeah.
So we thought that there was a distinction between these two. And so that's the distinction we were looking for. What is meta therapy? Okay. Rather than the more clinical side.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why what I would say is that going back to what Michael presented in the presentation last month, for us as meta coaches, we are coaching, and there are instances that the client will respond to meta therapy. First, as what we discussed just now, do they still fulfill the criteria of the 9 coachable factors? And the other is for us to understand about the degrees of hurt, the kinds of intervention, the design of therapy, and the problems associated with that, to have those distinctions. Yeah. Anyone else? What did you discuss in your room? So are you good? Are you ready for the next? Yeah.
I'm from the same group as Mauricio, and I too have an iPhone, so I couldn't read all the names very properly. But we also were talking about the power of listening to our clients, and to be able to do that in such a way that we hold the space and the client can move forward with things they perhaps haven't dared to try before when they're talking about their problems, and the key factor of knowing when to not get caught up in their stories, but to interrupt them and go, okay, yeah, but what about this you just said? So there is the power of rapport, of course, but it's also the power of silence from the coach to maintain the silence in such a way that is uplifting instead of frightening and terrifying for the client, and thus holding the room so this person can express herself or himself in a beneficial way, and that we talked about could do really wonderful things for that client.
Yeah. Thank you, Oman. Appreciate that. Okay, so are you ready for the next couple of questions? So let me just put up my screen here for the next question. For the second discussion, the first one is that the therapy client wants peace and removal of something that creates pain. If you were to contrast that with a coaching client, they are dissatisfied where they are now and they want something better. So that's developmental. However, the therapy client just wants to go to a place where they can have peace and the removal of something that creates that pain. So the question here is, do you understand why challenging can make things worse? So in coaching, we challenge. However, a person who is at the level of requiring therapy, the challenging can make things worse. So please discuss this in your groups in a short while. The next question is that the NLP and Neuro-Semantics models view personalities as states, not types. We view personality as states, not types. So the question, this means that people can change their personalities and are not stuck. So the question is, how well do you know this and operate from this perspective? So how well do you know this and operate from this perspective in terms of the way that you are interacting with your coaching client? So I'll just leave that for a few seconds. If you want to take a screenshot so that you can bring into your room. So I'll read the questions again. The therapy clients wants peace and the removal of something that creates pain. So the question is, do you understand why challenging can make things worse? Maybe you can bring examples that you may have come across with. The NLP and Neuro-Semantics models view personality as states, not types. This means that people can change their personalities and are not stuck. So how well do you know this? And how well do you operate from this perspective? Okay, so I'm going to create new rooms, new breakout rooms. I'll recreate rooms. So I'm going to invite you into the rooms and have the discussion. Remember to introduce yourself to the people in the room, and then carry on with the discussion. Oh, by the way, in case any one of you suddenly drops out of the room, I'm here in the main room to put you back into into whichever room that you were in before. Okay, so enjoy yourself, and I'll see you in 20 minutes.
There's a requirement to make sure that we're not stepping over that line that we talked about. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. I had the experience of conducting training some coaching skills to a group of people, and in that group, one of the participants is a therapist, and she was just learning the coaching skills. So when we went into the coaching practice, she said that it was really scary for her because coaching, we are following the energy of the client, and she felt that she's not in control. When we discussed that, what she gained from that was that absolutely, as a therapist, you need to be in control because the client is hurt. So the therapist needs to give frames, healthy frames to the client to get the client to be healthy again. However, as a coach, we don't give frames to the client. We facilitate their thinking process for them to get healthy frames for themselves. So her learning there was a major wow factor for me to be able to notice that. So that's why a therapy client cannot be challenged because they don't have those healthy frames to hold on to. Yeah. Anyone else has got anything?
Thank you, Marsuki. That was a great distinction. That was very clarifying. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I learned that from one of my training participants from her own experience. That was wonderful. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was very helpful because one of the discussions we had is, well, we don't really know what a therapist does. So it's really hard to talk about the distinction. But from what you're saying is a therapist is leading the whole time nearly, and we don't do that.
Yeah. The term that Michael used and therapists use is the term reparenting. The role of the therapist is to reparent the client because the client doesn't have healthy frames, just like little children when they come into this world. They don't have a frame that says, if you jump out of the second floor window, you'll break your neck and die. They don't have those frames. So parents need to give those frames to the child. So similarly, in a therapy situation, because the clients aren't able to have those healthy frames, then the therapist needs to give those frames. Whereas in coaching, our clients are healthy.
And you need to have a really good therapist as well.
Yes.
Or you will have a second bad childhood.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. when you said that, I remember there's one docu-movie on Netflix. It's about a young girl who was raped in her own home while she slept, and nobody believed her. It's just that the way that they presented the movie, when the investigating officer came and interviewed her, the moment the officer interviewed, can you tell me exactly what you went through? The first thought that came to my mind, that's the structure of trauma. And then when she went to the hospital, the nurse interviewed her in that way. I said, oh my goodness, they are just
reaffirming the trauma.
Yeah, reaffirming the trauma. And I watched the movie for about a quarter way. I said, I don't want to see that. It's too traumatic experience for me to watch people being traumatized. Okay. Right. So nothing else? Anyone else? Good. So since there are no more, I really appreciate all of you for being here. I thank you for being here, for your presence and your participation in this meeting. My personal takeaway, as I was typing that on my laptop just now, is that people with healthy psychologies may experience frames that are unhealthy or toxic. So meta therapy is useful for these people. Now, people who have unhealthy psychologies, they need therapy to regain their health, and they don't need a coach. They are not ready for coaching. So my takeaway here is that I will use the 9 coachable factors to determine whether a person needs a coach or therapist. So that's why in my address book, I have the contact address of at least 2 therapists in case I need to refer somebody to them. Right. So before we end, I'd like to make a couple of announcements with respect to the NeuroSemantics trainings coming up in the near future. So the first one, I would like to broadcast here is that the NSTT that will be in May 12th to the 17th of May, it will be in Mexico. So if you want, for those people in South America, you'll be jumping with joy. So contact David. If you are a trainer and you would like to revisit the special rates for revisitors. If you are a meta coach, you want to step up to being a trainer, then I would highly encourage you to attend the NeuroSemantics trainers training. The next announcement is regarding coaching mastery. There will be 2 coaching mastery programs happening in this region. I'm referring to the Asian region. This one will be in Indonesia on the 11th to the 13th of March, and another one in June that will be in Malaysia. So those of you who have not been to Malaysia, you want to see, you may heard of Malaysia before, I would like to highly encourage you to come here to Malaysia on the 16th to 24th of June. If you are a meta coach, I'd like to invite you to come in as a reviewer in order to sharpen your skill, as Stephen Covey calls it, sharpening the saw. Or if you are a NeuroSemantics trainer, I would really encourage you to take up meta coaching as one of the skills that will strengthen your training skill. That happened to me. After taking NSTT 3 years later, I took up meta coaching. The way that I conduct training just shifted by another notch. So that's what I would like to announce to all of you. So NSTT in May, ACMC in March in Indonesia, and in June in Malaysia. Okay, so those are the training coming up in the near future. And before we end, I would like to just take a snapshot, and there are 13 of us, so it is only one screen. That makes my job all that much easier. So if you don't mind, yes, we have the you on video, and I know Kenny, you're not well, so you won't we will not see you on video. So are you ready? Okay, do up your faces a little bit so to make sure that everything is nice. Ready? 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, and another one. 3, 2, 1, smile. Thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate your being here today. I thank you for your presence and participation in this meeting. I look forward to meeting all of you in our next meeting, and we bid goodbye to the remainder of 2022, and I wish you an awesome 2023. I'm Mazuki. I'm a NeuroSemantics trainer and meta coach, and I wish you an exceptional quality of life filled with happiness, creativity, and fulfillment. Until we meet again, goodbye and God bless all of you. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Great to meet
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Bye bye.
Yes, Happy New
Bye.
Year. Merry
Good night from
Christmas.
Australia. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.
Yeah,
Also,
past midnight, Della.
Yes, yes.